leaders of the Brics alliance of 5 nations have invited another 6 countries to join. They are Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The annual Brics Summit is being held in Johannesburg. The leaders of Brazil, India, China and South Africa are there, while Russia's president is on video link from Moscow. The South African president made the expansion announcement.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of Brics. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
My correspondent Fahmi Miller is joining us live from Johannesburg. Brics Group attracting a level of interest rarely seen since its founding in 2014. Fahmi, the dozens of countries expressed their interest in joining, but only 6 have been accepted for now.
It's likely, Elizabeth, that the criteria was pretty tight in terms of who they might admit. There's been a lot of debate amongst these Brics members around who should be admitted, when that should be done. And looking at who they've included in this admission, we see also increased representation from African countries, Ethiopia and Egypt. And South Africa has been squarely behind that, wanting African countries, the global south, to have a bigger place within this grouping. But to give us greater insight into what might have informed this decision, we're speaking to Michael Bosicue, a global affairs analyst. Now, Michael, what is likely behind the admission of these 6 new members? What is it that would have taken them into the Brics grouping?
Sure. Well, it looks like China was very, very keen to expand Brics. In fact, the Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson said it's going to breathe new vitality into the bloc. For sure it will, but the choice is very interesting. So we have Argentina, some more representation from South America, Egypt, Ethiopia, African continent. Ethiopia was, I think, a little bit unexpected. Iran, I have a suspicion there might have been some Russian maneuvering behind that. They're close allies. And then Saudi Arabia and UAE, that signals to me more cash infusion into the development bank. Missing there was Indonesia and Mexico. We were expecting them to come in as well.
We've repeatedly heard from the existing leadership of Brics that this is about unity, it's about the global south, greater representation, but this comes amid heightening global tensions. While Brics may be forming a more solid bloc globally, are there concerns around greater fragmentation?
Oh, absolutely. A couple of quick things. One is we're seeing the deterioration of these multilateral fora, G7, G20, APEC even, watered down communiques or none whatsoever. At least here they managed to come out with quite a big announcement about the expansion. But when you see countries like Iran coming in, and also you listen to the rhetoric coming out of the conference, for example, from people like Mr. Lula of Brazil, a lot of talk here about not using the US dollar anymore, leveling the playing field for African countries. You see quite the fragmentation. I think, just quickly, I think it's got to the point where good luck to America trying to win back the loyalty of some of these African countries. I think a lot of them are shifting more towards this direction.
Just very quickly, do these countries have enough in common for Brics to be effective?
I don't think so. When you look at China, India, especially Russia, now Iran, Brazil, Lula from Brazil, again, he's very contrarian in saying what he wants to see. Very, very strong on climate. Good luck convincing the Russians and the Chinese and, in fact, India to adhere to those high climate standards.
Michael, thanks very much for your time there. Speaking to Michael Bosicue, a global affairs analyst. We do know that it's taken months of discussion to get to this point, but ultimately, the existing members of Brics want to forge ahead with this multipolar world. They say a more equitable world and essentially realigning geopolitics.
Fahmi, thank you for that. That is Fahmi Miller live in Johannesburg.
After March celebration, 6 new nations are now members of the bloc, including the Brics bloc, as existing members approve the expansion. Now, the 3-day Brics Summit taking place in Johannesburg, South Africa, concludes today as the world watches geopolitical realignments. 6 new nations joining the bloc are Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Ethiopia and Egypt. Argentina, while Iran and Saudi Arabia have shown affinity to China lately, with the latter brokering a peace deal between the two West Asian neighbors. UAE has been forging strategic relations with India, and outside of West Asia, 2 African nations, of course, Ethiopia and Egypt, have made the cut. Argentina, that has been struggling with its economy lately, represents the global south from the continent of South America. The announcement was made by South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, the host of 2023 Brics Summit.
BRICS countries, we have reached agreement on the guiding principles, standards, criteria and procedures of the BRICS expansion process, which has been in discussion for quite a while. We have consensus on the first phase of this expansion process, and other phases will follow.
The leaders of existing BRICS nations welcome the new inductees, calling for a multipolar world order.
15th anniversary of BRICS, we have taken the important decision to expand it. As I had said yesterday, India has always fully supported the expansion of BRICS membership. India has always believed that the addition of new members will further strengthen BRICS as an organization, and it will give our shared efforts a new impetus.
I would like to congratulate new BRICS members on the full membership. They will assume their membership next year. Let me assure all of the colleagues that we will keep up with the work that we have launched to expand BRICS' influence in the world.
This membership expansion is historic. It shows the determination of BRICS countries for unity and cooperation with the broader developing countries. It meets the expectation of the international community and the common interests of emerging market countries and developing countries.
While a bilateral meeting between India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and China's President Xi Jinping remains awaited and looks dicey at the moment, the two leaders were seen exchanging pleasantries on the final day of the summit. Fresh from a successful moon landing of its space mission on Wednesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi remained under the spotlight during the morning session. The West has been keeping a very close eye on the developments in Johannesburg. Many analysts believe that the expansion of BRICS could even pose a challenge to the economic hegemony of the G7 nations, as some of the world's fastest emerging economies continue to assert themselves. Now, to decode these developments further, our correspondent Khalden Omu is joining us live from Johannesburg. Also on the broadcast, we have Brahma Chalani. He's joining us live from New Delhi. He's a professor of strategic studies at the Center for Policy Research. Khalden, let's begin with you. And before we delve into the fine print of this expansion move, please tell our viewers about some basics, like what is the admission criteria for any member to become a BRICS member, and what was the process like this time for these new 6 countries?
Well, Ananya, before I even answer your questions, let's say all the guesses and assumptions that has been going on for weeks and months have finally been put to rest. The leaders have announced that there is new members, 6 countries that have been admitted. And, going back to your questions on the admission criteria, all of us were very confident as journalists and media when they took us to the media briefing room stating that there will be question and answers, which actually in the program it does mention that there will be question and answer round, but unfortunately that did not happen. And if you notice that President Ramaphosa did not even go into the details of what the admission criteria process for this BRICS membership expansion was. But however, I've been speaking to some of the experts that have been walking in and out of this media room. Some of them say, each country, BRIC countries, have picked their own favorites. They say Brazil has always been rooting for Argentina. They got that. South Africa, China, as well as India has always backed the Gulf countries, of course, for its oil-rich nations and all of that. And Africa, they said, I don't think any leaders objected on the 2 African countries that Egypt and Ethiopia are coming in. So formally, we do not have in paper as to what the admission criteria was, but these are some of the guesses that has been going on with experts that we've been speaking to. But Ananya, if you notice on the speech of President Cyril Ramaphosa, which I have on my phone, he stated that, we have consensus on the first phase of the expansion process. So it's very clear that currently for the first phase, it might be 6 countries, but until the next year summit comes, they might consider more countries coming in. He stated that we have tasked our foreign ministers to develop the BRICS partner country model and list of prospective partner countries and report by the next summit. So experts have been stating that as of for now, they might be admitting the 6 countries, but there's a lot that needs to go on until the 1st of January. These countries, they will have to pay upfront money to be part of the BRICS membership also, I'm told. But, the formal written admission criteria process was not mentioned neither by Ramaphosa nor any leaders of the BRICS.
Right. You make a very important point there that this might be just the first phase of the new members. We could see more new members coming in. Mr. Chilani, come in with your expertise here. We have 6 new members: United Arab Emirates, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, and Egypt. What are these 6 new countries bringing onto the table?
Well, first, let's keep in mind that even with 5 existing members, BRICS has been unable to forge a common identity and a common agenda. It has no unified positions on pressing international issues. So it's not a unified voice in international forums. Now that there will be 6 more members, in other words, 11 members from next January, this will make BRICS identity more diffused. That's the reason why, apart from China, which had the backing of Russia, the other 3 existing members, India, South Africa, and Brazil, were initially ambivalent about expanding BRICS at this stage, but they came under pressure. They came under pressure to at least admit some members. But this expansion clearly bears China's stamp, just the way China insisted that if India were to join SCO, its geopolitical rival Pakistan should also be admitted. If you look at the new BRICS members, they have admitted geopolitical rivals. Egypt and Ethiopia are geopolitical rivals. Brazil and Argentina are geopolitical rivals, even though Argentina's entry was backed by Brazil. Similarly, if you look at Saudi Arabia and Iran, these are well-known geopolitical rivals. So clearly, as in fact, the Chinese President Xi Jinping called this membership expansion historic. The Chinese have much to celebrate, but the issue is, what does this bring to BRICS? How does it make it more credible as an institution, as an organization? How can BRICS become a credible alternative to Western institutions like the G7, even the G20, which will hold its summit meeting in a few days in New Delhi, is largely dominated by the Western Bloc.
Right, you do bring in an important point. When 5 countries were not able to come on the same page and bring consensus, how exactly will 11 countries now do that? But that is a challenge, of course, for the bloc, and we are yet to see how that pans out. Mr. Chilani, for a really long time, the Indian Prime Minister did not lay out his clear stance on the expansion of BRICS. In fact, India was one of the last countries to confirm that. But today, while addressing the summit, the leader said that New Delhi has always been open to a move like this because the group needs to evolve with the changing times. Maybe that answers your question?
Well, India never opposed expansion. What India was suggesting for a long time was that let's develop some membership criteria. If you look at other institutions like ASEAN or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, before you become a member, a full member, you first become an observer, then you become a dialogue partner. Then in the third phase, you become a full member. This is how India became a member of SCO. It was a dialogue partner of SCO for several years, for a number of years in fact. But here, 6 new members are being brought on board directly without having been observers or dialogue partners. India wanted a criteria for admission. The fact that no criteria has been publicly divulged indicates that this decision is largely political in nature, it is ad hoc, and that China wanted even more members to be admitted, but finally the group by consensus agreed that at this stage 6 new members admission is more than enough.
All right, Mr. Chilani, thank you for getting us all those insights and breaking down this diplomacy that we are seeing playing out in Johannesburg at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us.